Okay, today I'm gonna talk about the nesting route in React. So first, what is nesting routes? You can also call it a second level route, which means to navigate to another route component inside of route component. I'm gonna show you an example. This is the static page we have used from last class. So there are two links here, about and home, and now home is it has been clicked. Now this is the home component. After that, we click in the home component. We still can navigate between message and a news. Instead of a message sorry. Instead of a message component, we can navigate to message 1 to 3. So this is the nesting component, right? So how it works. We have talked about how the to variable link to attribute match the path attribute in root component, which is home to equal to home and path equal to home. But when we when the to value is home dash slash a slash b, and there's no good match, still the home component right here will be displayed. Why? So root path will match to value by the order of root declared. So first it will match the home component. If there is a home component, and then pass will check if there is a component, and if there is a b component. If there's no b, just display a. If there is a b, it will just go to b recursively, right? So this is also why the reason why we shouldn't use exact match. So sometimes nesting routes will be ignored, right? Yeah, again, we're gonna use this use this as an example, and we use this empty React project as a start, and finally we convert this empty project into this one. But this is a static page. We're gonna convert this into a responsive web React application. So again, we have static page, and we come to source code folder, and Alright. Okay, so we have get the static page into the app, and first we need to replace that so that there will not be syntax error. Okay, no syntax error. So we don't need these two components anymore. And yep. So instead of this source code folder, we don't need these two components anymore. Instead, we have a header, and we have another our customized link component from last class. If you don't know what is that, you can just review my last class about React Router. So I have a header, I have a my nav-link component, right? So again, we copy this because this project needs a lot of work to customize to make it pretty. So I just used this Bootstrap directly, so that we don't have to deal with each component CSS file separately. So yeah, it looks like what it should be. And now we insert the component. We have index.js, index.css, index.js, index.css. Right, so we look at this page. So this is like the component, right? But we have already talked about from last class. So this is the root component, either about a home component. They are root components. So we should make a pages folder for them. Home, about. This is all from last class, so it's quite straightforward. If you don't know, then you can just review. Right. So okay. App. Now we start convert this into component. So first, this one is the header, right? So I just open header and React class header. Oh. Header component. Now I import this header. Okay, header display. And now I want to convert this part. And so this is a link. This is a link component. So I use customize link. It's called my knife. And instead of this, not link, should be knife link, right? Because we want to highlight style. So this one should be customized. To wrap all the components into router. Okay. Now it works, right? So the link has been highlighted when it is clicked, and when clicked, then the path of the page has been triggered, has been changed, right? So how about? And now we declare the routes for each link. I have a home component here. Okay, so now I migrate the whole home component from app root component to home component page. So let me take a look. Yep. Okay, so home component is here. Path. home component home. Of course, about. Sorry. Yeah, you have to be very careful about this, the tag home about. Right? Now so current folder pages home. Okay. Fill the props tab. Developer component supply to route. Properties not valid. So what is wrong here? Shouldn't be. Is there a typo? Supply to route. Valid the property is not a valid React component. Route rotor home component about
8点
component.
30分。
So it seems like something wrong with this about component. But question is what's wrong here? Navigate about. Oh, okay, because about is still empty. Let's just give it about component. Great, no problem now. Yeah, so these two links has been declared successfully, and when you click that, the component has been displayed on the right side, right? So But after that, we need to get this part done, news and message. So these are nesting route, right? So when you navigate to news, it should be something like this. So it is second level route. Okay, so now we have already finished this. Nav header component pages home. Okay, so now we need a news and a message component, two components, right? So we need to create that. Normally we just create it inside of the home folder because it is page nested into the home page. So normally we just do it that way so that you have a better clear file structure. So first one is news, second one is message, right? Yes. So okay, now we have news. We just deal with this news first. News is not here, so this is message, right? Message 1, 2, 3. So we need to open this static page and news, right? So as you can see here, so actually this is the news link and this is the news route, right? So okay, let's just change this first. So it is my nav link. We change this to my nav to home message to home news. Just ignore this part for the moment because we haven't declared a root component for news, right? So now it works and trigger the path change. The reason why here, if you have already noticed that when we declare this, we declare the full path from the localhost, because if you declare something like this news, it will give this path to news because it manipulates a window.history property, right? So you use a window.history.push. So when you just declare it as /news, it will just replace that with something like this. And if you use this, so it means that this page is not based on the home component anymore. So it will just display nothing, right? So it will display nothing. Okay. Of course, when you declare the root component to match this, so this also should be the same path, right? home and news, right? So this part is news. We need to import React Router first. So, news. Not fan module CSS. Root component news message, right? Now we just we have already successfully nested another root component inside of this home component, and this home component is a root component to home link, right? So now we have two second level root. It is nesting rows or nested root. Right. So now we want to display news first, and we just give it this is news. This is okay. As you can see here, so this should be in news. This is a message, so I just migrate this to message. And in news, we have news page. We have something like this, right? So this is news. It's totally hard-coded, only for demonstration purpose. So let's open this again. So message component, so message it seems like message component didn't display well. Oh yeah, it works perfect. All right, so Now we're back to readme. So we at the beginning, so we have already finished that successfully split the static files into different components and make the root works as we have already explained from last class, right? The only different thing is that we from last class there's only one level root. It's just a /home, and in this class we have /a/b, which is nesting roots, right? To make this more complete, so add switch and redirect. So where do you add that, right? So of course you wrap that wherever there is a root component, right? So redirect to home news component. Yes. Right, so we import this switch redirect, and also in the root component we add switch and redirect. Home. Okay, now default component is home component, and the second level root component, the default root component is news component, right? So when we load localhost 3000, and it will just come to home component and a news tag directly, right? So when we click, then there is a message. Okay, so now we want to add another layer, another level of root component, which means that we want to display something right here when we click message number 1, 2, 3. Right? So that means and we want to display the content dynamically, which means that we will display something we don't have at the beginning, but when we display the message component right here, it will just retrieve some data from a server. It will send a request at the same time. So why we do it that way? So suppose you use Twitter, right? You use Twitter, and so your URL is user and your username. So when you trigger this path, so means like similar to when you click the message 001, and it would give you the pass. Imagine this is not a message 001. This is Fico and Ali and another link. You click that, you trigger this path. So you need to use some of the information here to retrieve your whole user information. Then you display it on the page. something here, right? So this is the real world use case of this root component. You cannot just navigate between components simply. At the same time, you need to pass something to your root component, to your nested root component, and at the same time, when the children root component accept that value, accept that data, then they will retrieve the complete data from server, right? So imagine this is a pizza. This is not Twitter. This is like a pizza shop, pizza store. So pizza, and then you wanna choose some like onion pizza, and then you set the set some value by this link to the nested root component, and the whole pizza information will be displayed here, right? So this is the real life use case of nested root component. So now I come to now we want to pass some value, right? Pass value to nested root component, children component. Yep. So there are 3 ways to do that. The first one is pass value params. So what is params? Home component message. Okay, we just let's just make this message dynamic first. So suppose I have message and title. Okay, we want to display this dynamically. So this dot states dot message dot map message, and each message is, and it is a link. So link should be message.title each node requires a unique key, right? So I just leave these 2 empty for the moment, and this one is a link, right? So when we click message 001, it will display something here. So we need another component nested into this message component again, right? So now I have already completely demonstrated how nesting root is. So come to subscriber folder and about and home and a message. Instead of message, we need a, let's call it a detail component. Detail component has index.js, right? And detail index.js. So what does this component do? It will display the detail of the messages, right? So in this case, we just use a state to simulate that we have already retrieved data from server, right? So that we don't have to do access. Now have state. So we got the ID. So we change this to content, right? So content should be I love fecal right? Imagine this is the content of each message, right? So so where do we go to? We need to go somewhere. At the same time, we need to pass this the message ID at the same time. So how do we do that? So besides this, we need a root component to display the detail first, right? So let's just put it somewhere under, and we have root component path home messages and detail. All right, and component is detail. Okay, we need to import this root and then import detail from current folder detail, right? What? Oh, index. Okay. And normally we split the index into each component, right? But in this case, I want to save some time, so I just put all the CSS in the bootstrap file. So, okay, message 1. Oh, so messages. It goes to direct, so there might be some typo here. Okay, we haven't. Okay, so this part, it should be in this part we should pass dynamically, including the ID of each message, right? Because if you don't have ID, how do you know the content of each message, right? So how do we pass that? We have 3 ways to do so. And both of these 3 ways are quite useful in the real life project. The first one is pass value in params. Okay, so how do we pass that? We just pass it in this way, something like template string home messages and detail and message.add you can just pass a single ID. For demonstrate purpose, I pass all ID as well as the title. So message dot title. Right. So if you pass it from link, you need to accept in the root component. How do we accept this? We use comma title. Great. Then we come to the detail component. And how do we accept this? I can print the props for you again. As you can see here, so there is the params, and all the things that you have passed from link has been stored here, params, right? But this is the property of so history, location, match. These are the most three important concepts of React router or root components, right? So we just store the value we have passed from the link to component in params. The reason why I passed the two values together, ID and the title, because you can see that those has been stored in an object. So whatever how many you have, right? So it will be passed into the object. So title is undefined. Why? Oh, I have typo here. Right. Okay, message 002. So what can we do when we get the ID? So first we can just accept that right here, right? So not a const ID title this dot props dot match dot params, right? And what can we do? We display this to first. Yeah, ID number 2 message 002. So then we get ID, like we got the size of the pizza, we get the name of the pizza. We can retrieve the data from the server to get the whole information of the pizza, right? The content of the pizza. We get a username. We can just retrieve that from the whole information from server about this user, this Twitter user, right? So let's result equal to, and this dot state dot messages dot find. We're gonna find which message has the same ID, right? So when message dot ID is equal to ID, right? Then it will return something. Let's print result. It says undefined. So why? Because okay, let me show this again. All right, so you can see here, so ID has already been converted into a string. This is the standard of, router API, so it doesn't matter to us. So whenever you want to use it, you have to specify this is a number, right? So now we get the result. We just displayed it here. Detail component for, right? So li, we have id, which is id. We have title, which is title. We have content, which is result dot content. So content so what it returns should be an object, right? It should be a message object. Okay, let's just display these two first. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, no problem. One, two, three, no problem. So let's check if the result has been returned successfully. Oh, the result is undefined. Oh, sorry. So message ID is number, and ID is okay. String, right? Okay. As you can see here, so now we have this display. It works. So details component is another root component inside of the message component, right? So we pass the value by the link, and detail component get the ID and retrieve the data from the server and display the whole content in the detail component, right? It just exactly same as, you know, when you order a pizza or you display your account in Twitter, right? This is super useful. So this is the first way we do this. It's called pass value in params to nesting root component params, right? There is another way. It's called insert. What does this mean? You may have already noticed that there are a lot of web pages pass their value by URL encoded standard or URL encoded tab, which it looks like query string ID and symbol title, something like this. So okay, we click message, as you can see here. So it becomes to ID and title, right? This format is called URL encode format. So we can also pass the value to the root component in this way. Okay. So how do we accept that? So let me declare root component in params. Okay. So this way is called search, right? So pass the value or declare root component in search. So how do you accept the value passed in from link component? You don't need anything. You need to display trigger the root nesting root component directly, and then you still can accept something here, but not in params, but it is in search. So again, I'm gonna so this one is what we have to use, whatever how you want to pass the variables, right? Fetch the content, right? So we put this in the bottom, right? This one is you accept value in params from parent class, parent component. Okay. So in this way you can not accept the value from params. You need to accept from search. Again, I'm gonna display what has been returned and where the value has been stored into. So okay, it's not defend. Let's just defend. Okay, so you can see it here. The match, no. Location, yes. As you can see here, so search. So it is passed like as a query string, which will be stored into the location.search property. So how do we deal with this? It's very easy. Props location dot search, right? So we just want to manipulate data, which we need to remove this question mark and split this into two parts and combine that best. Ideally we can combine this into an object, right? So we have API can do this for you. So search will. So I display location.search. Now this is a query string, right? So there is API. You can just call. You just call query string. So. How do we deal with this? We can do let ID title so the query string is from props.location.search, right? We need to remove the first one. First the question mark, and after that we need to parse that. Structure parse into an object. Let's take a look. Message ID message, right? So this is a query string, and we use query string dot pass to convert this string into object, okay? So that we can do this structure assignment to get the ID and title, and after that at last we use the ID to get the content, right? So this is the second way, and you can see it here, right? This is the second way we get value from we pass the value from parent component to nested root component, right? Of course, while in search, of course there is another way is pass value in state. State. Let's just comment this out for the moment. So how do we use this? So instead of pass a string here, right here we need to pass another object. So we just add object. So this object has several properties. The first is called pass name, and second is called state. State is the state you want to pass to. Maybe an ID, message or ID, title, message dot title. So what is the pass name? Pass name is path name. This is an object, right? So this is a JavaScript object, so you need to use comma. So you need to pass these two things. So this looks more clear and more structural. But honestly, these three ways to pass value to the nested root component are quite popular. So you need to know each of them instead of one of them, right? So you need to know them all. And how do we accept the value? Nothing special. We just do this way. So you have already noticed that whatever you pass value in search and in state, you just declare your root component as 0. But when you pass the value in params, you need to declare it differently. Declare a root component differently. Again, so I'm gonna show you accept value in state from parent class, right? So console log this dot props dot just props, right? Comment this out let id dot 1 let title 2 let content dot 3. Okay. So let's find where the state is. All right. As you can see here, so now it has already been stored here in the location of state, right? And you may have noticed that in this way the ID is not a string, it is a number. So whatever, now we know where it is stored. We just get the ID. Location dot state. This state is different from the React state, right? So this is an API of browser, so you have to tell the difference between two states. So anyway, now we can do ID title this dot props dot location dot state. Now we have ID. Let's display it here. Message, detail component. I love Fico, right? These are the three ways that you can pass the, the value from the parent class to message root component. Is very, very useful. So after that, we need to talk about declarative programming, routing. So what is declarative programming? We have already talked about from the previous class before. Actually, that this is not a static. You just make this responsive, right? So for example, I want to route to some page, and there are two ways. Like we can do push the history, or we can do replace the history, right? There are two ways, and I want to add two buttons here. So one is to push history, and one is replace history, right? And suppose there is another scenario. For example, the default root component is news. I wanted this one. I wanted this news tab navigate to message tab after 1 or 2 seconds, or just jump back and forth automatically. This is all declarative routing, right? We don't do it by command, step by step. We just I said I want to do this. It does it for you. React does it for you, right? So this is let me just show you this one by one. So first, add push button or add replace button. Okay, so where is this button? So it should be something here, right after the link. So I put it NBSP, okay. And I have a button push replace. I'm gonna show you the final final results later, right? So we'll be very quick. So I have on click, okay. This dot push, this dot replace, right? Okay, I have two buttons. So when I display the message content, when I click push, the new path will push into the history. Or when I click replace, the new path will be replaced in the history stack, right? So how do we do that? Of course, we need to accept we can do three, either way of them, in promise way, in search way, or in state way. I don't want to change this for the moment. I just use search, right? So let's just pass object set here, right? And of course we need these two methods, right? Push, push, arrow function, push, click, when push into history when click. So it will accept a path here. sys.props.history.push path. This dot push is not a function. Oh, sorry. Push. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I think it triggered. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot. Yeah. So because we use a bracket here, right? So we need to use a higher order function. We have passed something into, right? So sorry. Push, and when I click go back, as you can see here, it's all pushed. Right? If I refresh the page, I do message, I do replace, I go back. Yeah, I go back to news directly, right? So, yeah. Also, we can go back and go forward and go to some specific, right? So we can do go back, go forward, go to, right? So we don't add the button here, we just add the button into the detail, right? Let's add this into detail. Just add it here, right? Suppose there are 3 buttons. Let me just copy those buttons. And let's just rewrite this, whatever. Doesn't matter. Go back. Go forward. And go to. Click this dot go back, this dot go forward, this dot go to, go back to history when clicked. This dot props dot history dot go back. So why can we use this? Oh yeah, this is in render, sorry. Because if we display it here, message 1 will display the history here. On the history, as you can see, that there are several APIs that which can manipulate history, right? So go back, go forward, go to, right? So based on this history API, we can manipulate history. So go back, go forward, and go to, yeah, go to, you can go forward and go back for go back and go forward. So now in this case, I just go back to history record. Okay, message, message 1, message 2, message 3, message 2, message 3, message 1, go back, right? And message 3, message 2, message 3, and we go back here. Sorry, I should just push that. I should push that instead. Okay, let me just push that. Push 1, push 2, push 3, 2, 1. Right? Back, back, forward, forward, back, back, forward, 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 and back 2. Right? Back 2, back 2. Right? So this is how we use it. Yeah, another. So navigate to message tape or link in 3 seconds, right? So how do we do this? Not in the detail component, should be in home component, right? So let me close this. So in the home component, this is the home component. Okay, so we have component date mount, right? And this dot props dot history dot push. So we go to home. Oh, sorry. Home messages, right? Because default, look at here. So default, it is news component, and we want to wait. Oh, sorry, we want. Oh, I forgot set timer. Okay, set timeout. 3 seconds. News 1, 2, 3. Yep. Declarative routing, right? So one last thing is okay, with router. You may ask me like, oh, because home component is a root component, and message and news component are root component, they can manipulate the history. So how, well, suppose I want to, manipulate history in a component which is not a root component, right? For example, I use header. So there are some web application, websites, they have some buttons here, like go back, go forward, and blah blah blah. Right? Sometimes it works like this. So But this header, it is a regular component instead of a root component. How do we manipulate history in this header? So we can use with router. So how do we use with router? So we come to this header component, right? We don't export this way. Instead, we do export with router and header. So this with router method can convert header, the regular component, into a root component, right? So import with router from React router DOM with router. Okay. Now I can add some buttons here. Let's see, button go back MBSP go forward go to. Okay. Again, I just put functions here. On click this dot go back. This dot go forward. This dot go to. So we need state 3 functions arrow. So go back. This dot props dot history dot go back. Go forward. Go forward. Go. Again, this time we do forward 1, right? Header. Yeah, this looks much better. So message push 1, push 2, push 3, push 2, push 3, back. Go forward. Some must be some typo here. History, go forward. Right, go to means forward 1, right? Forward 1. Right. So this is the usage of with router, which just gonna convert a regular component into a root component, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yeah, this is pretty much about the nesting router. Yeah, and this is all about the router. And because there are a lot of things in router, you may need some more practice, and all of them are very important, and each point I have talked about in this class gonna be used in the real life project. So yeah, this is pretty much about the nesting router today.